Peter Remington is the group publisher of Houston Magazine in the daytime, but by night, he is the Chief Possibility Officer of Prepare for More. Now, Prepare for More is a self-development company that helps people achieve their individual human potential. Peter also is the author of a book entitled Be a Holic and 14-Step Process to Becoming a Success-aholic. He is a wonderful, successful speaker, trainer, and life coach. So we welcome him. Thank you, Peter.
Hi, thank you. Okay, if anybody saw me speak last year, I think you realize that I work in acronyms. So there's going to be a bunch of acronyms tonight. So when it comes up, I'll give you fair warning and I'll just say acronym, and you can go ahead and go from there. So, all right. But, you know, they're saying that tonight's talk is about the word stop, the power of stop. We've all heard the expression, when the going gets tough, the tough get going. That's right. But my expression is, when the going gets tough, the smart stop. See, the thing about the going getting tough and the tough going is that when the tough get going, they're in a very reactive state of mind. And when you're in a reactive state of mind, you can't think straight. Your ego is taking over. And when your ego takes over, what you can do is you can have a quick success with that ego and feel good about yourself, but that quick success only leads to long-term chaos down the road. So for me, when the going gets tough, the smart stop. When you're in that reactive mode, you have basically surrounded yourself by all this negative energy, and it doesn't allow the resources that are available to us from the universe to accept the answer to our circumstance. So tonight we're going to talk about the power of stop. Now, the opening sentence of M. Scott Peck's book, The Road Less Traveled, is, "Life is difficult." Now, who do you think made life difficult? We did. So let me set the stage for you a little bit here. So let's go back to the beginning of Genesis with Adam and Eve. Right? So God created the earth, he created the earth, he spoke the sky, he spoke the waters, and all of a sudden he decided to speak Adam. So Adam is created, and through Adam, he creates Eve. Now here they are in this beautiful place called Eden, where it's filled with light, there's no troubles whatsoever, but he said to them one thing. He said, don't eat from that tree, that forbidden fruit. Don't do that. Right? So Eve, one day, and she is the first person in history, by the way, who confronted distractions, the enemy, the opponent, the adversary. She is the first person. So she's walking through this blissful Garden of Eden, and here's this little serpent that says, hey, try a little bit of this fruit, because with this fruit you will gain wisdom. So she takes a bite of it. She runs over and gives it to Adam, and like a good guy, he does what his wife says, so he takes a bite of it. Right? And the next thing you know, you hear from God. And God says, what have you done? Well, we've eaten from the forbidden tree, and he says, okay, from now on, you're going to experience pain. You're going to experience death. You're going to have to work for your food. You're going to feel cold. You're going to feel heat. You're going to feel discomfort. All these things are going to happen to you. And to put the cherry on top, I'm going to make you have kids. Now that's cruel. I thought we had a loving God, right? So now the Kabbalists have a different thing. The Kabbalists will tell you that we were all spirits, and we're flying through as light, through the universe as light. And as we were flying through the universe as light, life was pretty boring. And if you think about it, they had no competition. There's nothing for them to succeed over. So it's just a constant flow of energy of light. It's kind of like playing the game of hide and go seek, right? So I'll turn around, you guys go hide. I'll give you to 10. 1001, 1002, 1,003, 10. Well, you're still here. And there's no fun, there's no competition, right? So there's one guy in this stream of energy of light. His name was probably Adam, too. And he said, you know what? Let's create some competition. So the light, God said, fine, let's go down there. We have this place called Earth. We'll go down there. And now you can have an opponent. And your opponent is going to give you trouble. He's going to be there all the time. He's going to be there to distract you. He's going to be there to cause you procrastination. He's going to be your enemy, your devil, your Satan. So now, here we are. The game is afoot. Now, we all know, and we say that here at Unity, we are all spirits having a human experience. So we have this opponent over here that's pretty powerful. We have our light within us, which is very powerful. And then just to give us some trouble, they give us a human body. And with that human body, they give us a heart. And a heart for love, and a heart that can be broken. And then he gives us free will, so we can make our decisions, our own choices in life, to be able to do whatever is right or do whatever is wrong. And then they do one more thing. He gives us a mind to remind us of the stupid choices we've made, right? I mean, how cruel is that, right? But it gets worse. Wait, there's more, right? So now, not only that, you don't get to fight the opponent at this stage, at this age of your life. You have to be born. So you are born, and guess what? You were born perfect. All right? Say this with me. I was born perfect. All right? We were all born perfect. But the problem with that is that we are born perfect into an imperfect world by imperfect parents, whom, by the way, were also born perfect into an imperfect world by imperfect parents, whom, by the way, were also born perfect into the imperfect world by imperfect parents, all the way back to Adam and Eve. They were the first set of imperfect parents out there, weren't they? So now you have this going on. So now you have these imperfect parents, and at a very early stage of your life, you're being programmed. And you're being programmed by some pretty credible people. Your parents, your church, your teachers, your siblings, your coaches, your friends' parents. Just about everybody is out there to influence you in your imperfectness. And they were putting little imprints on your mind as you're growing up, starting at the age of 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You're getting these little imprints in your mind. And depending on whether they were good or bad, or whether or not they were given in the level of intensity that they were given to you, if they were a super strong intensity of goodness, that's great, or a super strong intensity of negatives, that's not so great. But it's building up your emotional psyche. So there's the stage. Now the game is really afoot. The rules are these. You, your great spirit, your light, against all that other stuff. So life is difficult, and life is a series of triggering events, and triggering events will conjure up emotions. Now for me, you sit there and you have a feeling of, let's say, a deja vu, where you've been someplace before that you've been before, and you have that nice blissful experience saying, I've been here before and I really like this feeling. And then there's the experience that I have felt before, which I call vujade. Yeah, I've been there before, vujade. I've been there before and I don't want to go back. Right? But we have these emotions, these experiences, and they come to us, and when they're delivered to us, these experiences are delivered to us with zero emotions attached to it. They come to us nice and clean, and it's until we attach an emotion to that experience that we either become what I call the victim or the victor of that experience. If it brings up a negative emotion, you become the victim. If it brings out that positive emotion, you become the victor. And the only difference between a victim and a victor is the I am or the OR. And the I am in victim stands for internal mutilization. When we become victims of an experience, we start to bring up those negative implants that we had, those negative imprints we had as children, and we start to just get tight. And we get tighter and tighter and tighter. And we feel more and more miserable about ourselves. You know, we are pretty darn good at beating ourselves up, aren't we? There is things I have said to me that if someone else said them to me, I'd punch them in the face, right? But you become that victim. And it's until you get to the point in your life where you can have the outward resistance to those negative emotions. And when you get to that level with that outward resistance, that's when you get to become the victor. So when you want to stop, the first thing you want to do, the S stands for silence. Acronym. The S stands for silence. All right? What you want to do is you want to silence yourself of all those negative emotions. Silence yourself from your limiting beliefs. Silence yourself from conditional thinking. Silence yourself from jealousy, anger, rage. Silence yourself from depression. Silence yourself until you have a clear mind. Get to a state of a clean slate. Because at that point is when you're opening yourself up to the possibilities that are out there that the universe has for you, the answers. In the book of Isaiah, he says, "In quietness and in trust shall be your strength." So when you're quiet and you trust the voice coming to you, you will have your strength to move forward. On top of that, the Buddhists call it the stage of emptiness. There's nothing good, there's nothing bad, it's a state of emptiness, and you're now at the point where you're able to receive. So, first stage of stopping is to silence yourself. Now, Yerba Berg, in his book on Kabbalah, writes a thing called the suddenly syndrome. And what he says is that nothing happens suddenly. You don't suddenly lose your job. You don't suddenly gain weight. You don't suddenly go broke and get in debt. You don't suddenly fall out of love. You don't suddenly lose a client. Nor do you suddenly get in shape. Or do you suddenly become wealthy. Or do you suddenly find the love of your life. Or get a promotion at work. Nor do you suddenly get that real good client. Things happen through cause and effect. The circumstance that you find yourself in is a product of a cause and effect that created the circumstance that you find yourself in, and they're from seeds that you had planted long ago. They could be from seeds that you planted yesterday, 3 weeks ago, or 3 months ago, or 3 years ago. But these seeds will manifest at different times and create the effect that creates the cause in your life. So it's not as suddenly this just happened to me. You know, it takes a human female 9 months to have a baby. It takes an elephant 2 years. Same result, babies. It takes a blade of grass. It takes a blade of grass a week to start to sprout up. But if you plant an acorn at that same time, how long does it take for an oak tree to grow? A very long time. Same process, same manifestation, but different manifestation periods. And that's the thing about the seeds we plant in our lives. So we need to be careful about the types of seeds we plant in our lives, because those seeds, that cause will create this effect, which will create the circumstance. The other thing you want to do is think about your purpose. What is your purpose in life? Do you have a purpose in life? Everybody has a purpose in life, whether it be to be a good father, a good mother, a good employee, but do you really have a definitive purpose in life that you can talk about? Acronym. So, with a purpose in life, when you have it, you have passion, with your P. You have a passion for yourself. You understand why you're doing it. You resolve to make it happen. You have protection from the outside limiting beliefs that are out there. You have protection. You're obedient to the things that you need to do to make sure that your purpose follows through. You're spiritual about your purpose. It's woven into the fabric of your being, and E, you're enthusiastic about it. So when you have those definitive purposes in your life, nothing can stop you. Now, Napoleon Hill wrote the book Think and Grow Rich. Has anybody read that book? Quite a few? Okay. Great book. Great book. It is a manuscript on how to live your life and how to become a successful individual. But Napoleon Hill had a problem with that book. The problem is that people were reading it, but they weren't becoming successful. So he sat down and tried to figure that out, and he wrote a book in 1938 called Outwitting the Devil. And that book was very controversial for its time because it was going against the church and it was going against education. So his wife, Annie Lou, said, do me a favor, don't publish this book until after you die. So he said, okay. So in 1970, Napoleon Hill died. And Annie Lou said, you know what? I don't want this published until after I die. So she gave it to her nephew, who was in charge of the Napoleon Hill Institute at the time, and said, after I die, you publish this. She died in 84. Well, the nephew's wife said, you know what? I don't want this published in my time either. So they die. They passed the book along to the new CEO of the Napoleon Hill Institute, and it was in 2009, June of 2011, June of 2011, that book finally gets published. Something that was written in 1938 finally gets published. And the story is it's about the devil and outwitting the devil. And the story goes that the devil is your adversary. He's not the guy with the horns and the red suit and the tail and the pitchfork. That's not what we're talking about. The devil is your adversary. He's your opponent. He's your enemy. He's your Satan. He's your procrastination. He causes you to drift. He causes you to drift at moments when you should be doing something else. He causes you to drift. So the T in the stop stands to think. And think about the circumstances, the seeds you planted that got you into this effect that created this circumstance. Think about that. And when you think about the T, and you think, I think you'll find that along the way, God was speaking to you. God was saying, come by and don't do that. You know better. What was that? Come on now. Don't do that. What's that? So God's over here talking to you. You're on a diet, and over there's the chocolate cake. Don't do that. Right? But here's what happens. The opponent. Come on over here. The cake is great. Come on over here. Don't spend that money. You know you're trying to buy a new house. Come on over here. The sale is great. 2 for 1. Come on over here. You go over. And you walk over because it's easier to drift, to hear, than it is to resist. But I think you'll all find in your lives that you've had an intuitive moment. And you go, yeah. I was at the airport in Miami coming back from a trip, and you take your clothes, take your clothes off to go through TSA, right? Now you take your jacket off and your shoes and all that. And I had my sunglasses in my top pocket here. I grab my belt, my laptop, my stuff. I go over, I put my jacket on. I'm about 15 yards away from the TSA. And I thought to myself, are my sunglasses in my pocket? I said, I'll check it out when I get to the gate. Well, the gate in Miami is way down there. So I get to the gate, I order up some food, and I sit down, I go, no sunglasses. So I finished my salad. I walked all the way back to TSA. And I said, did you find some sunglasses, some Ray-Bans, two-tone? And they go, yeah, here they are. Well, hello. So listen to those little feathers. Think about the things that got you into that circumstance. Because as Thomas Edison said, as Albert Einstein said, the level of thinking that got you into your circumstance is not the same level of thinking that you have to be at to get out of it. You have to be at a higher level. So to do that, you have to be silent, be willing to accept the things that are coming to you, and then you have to think what got you there. So, ST. Now, I like this feather. I'll hold on to it. So, Stephen Covey, in his book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, in his 2nd chapter, writes about begin with the end in mind. And the concept of beginning with the end in mind is that if you have this vision of getting out of debt because you just got yourself into debt, you come up here with this vision of getting out of debt and you work your way back to the process of where you are now and what steps do you need to take to get back there. It's like when John F. Kennedy said that the United States was going to have the first man on the moon. Well, the scientists weren't really concerned about how do we get to the moon. The scientists were more concerned on how do we get back. And that's a pretty neat concept, especially if you're going to be one of the first astronauts on that trip, right? So it's kind of like goal setting, putting this all together. And you have to set up what I call, acronym, can-do goals. These are continuous, actionable, non-negotiable, daily, and obedient goals that we do. Can-do goals are goals that you can do on a regular basis. They're not the type of goals that we do when on New Year's Day, you know, we're all done with the partying and the eating and so forth, and we step on this scale and go, just gained 10 pounds from Thanksgiving to New Year's Day. You gain 10 pounds from the pumpkin pie, the pecan pie, the apple pie, the turkey, the ham, the this and that, the drinking. So here you are 10 pounds heavier. And what do? You go into your ego state and you react, right? Your first reaction is you know what? I'm going to run 3 miles in the morning. I'm going to eat 1,250 calories a day, and I'm going to go home at night and lift weights. So you get up the next morning, you go out there, you run your 3 miles, you eat your 1,250 calories, you come home and you lift weights. Day 2 comes along, you're like, okay, I'm going to run my 3 miles, I'm going to eat 1,250 calories, and I'm going to go home and lift weights. Day 3, I'm going to run 3 miles, a little bit slower. I'm going to eat 1,250 calories, going to home, lift weights. Day 4, you can't move. You can't. Your legs are like rigor mortis. You can't get your hands passed up here, and you're starving, right? Those are not can-do goals. Can-do goals are goals that are continuous, they're actionable, you can measure them, they're non-negotiable, they're done daily, and you do it obediently. Now, part of your non-negotiable goals is that these are your non-negotiables. 2 of those non-negotiable goals should be silence yourself and think. Because throughout your life, don't think that those demons don't come back. Even though you were a victor over some demons in the past, don't think that those demons won't come back. There's a book by Carol Norman, I think it was. It is called Feelings Buried Alive Never Die. And she's right. If you don't wipe out those feelings, they will come roaring back to you. So take time always throughout your life to silence yourself and then think about things. So the O in STOP stands to organize. So you silence yourself, you think about the situation that got you there and how you're going to get yourself out of it, and then you organize those thoughts. Now, the pain endured while making a vision happen doesn't last nearly as long as the pain endured knowing that you quit. What does that mean? The pain endured while making a vision happen. Well, the pain endured is this. You have this over here. Come on, get me, come on, get me. And you have God going, don't do that, don't do that. That's the pain, because the pain is be able to recognize the enemy, get away from the enemy, and there's your pain. You can't go out. You can't buy that outfit. You're not going to eat that chocolate cake. You're not going to get instant gratification. Your ego is not going to take over. That's the pain. But that pain doesn't last nearly as long as coming over here and eating that cake or spending that money and waking up the next morning going, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did it. And what do we do when we get to that mode? We go back into the I am, the internal, we're a victim. We're a victim of our own circumstances, and we get sadder and sadder and sadder and sadder. The tough thing about that is some people get sad, and they stay sad. They can't get out of that I am mode, and nothing you say to them can get them out of that. They lose a boyfriend or a girlfriend, you can say to them, they weren't right for you, but that doesn't make you feel any better, does it? I mean, you're in your own victim state. They can't help you out. I mean, how many times have you been there yourself and someone has said, they weren't right for you? It meant nothing to you. It fell on deaf ears. Right? So the pain endured while making your vision happen doesn't last nearly as long as the pain endured knowing that you quit. People will blame their failures on circumstances. They'll blame it on the weather. They'll blame it on somebody else. That wasn't me. They'll blame it on everything else but themselves. And then what they'll try to do is they start to rationalize their failures based on other things because they didn't have the will to make that happen. And they get to the point of rationalizing it that it becomes what I call rational lies. They become rational lies. They're believable, and you buy into it. But you see, we have that free will we talked about in the beginning, but we also have willpower and willfulness, and we have willingness. The difference between the two is that willfulness is something you can do for about 90 days. When I was asked to come to Houston to work on a 90-day project, I was living in San Francisco at the time, and they said, would you mind coming down to Houston for 90 days and help fix this company for us while we find somebody who can take over the seat? And I said, absolutely, I can do anything for 90 days. Well, here I am 4.5 years later. My will is to be here. I love this town. So anyway, Madison Avenue knows this. Madison Avenue, I mean, why do you think you could do P90X and be in shape in 90 days? Why do you think you can go get Rosetta Stone and learn a language in 90 days? Why do you think you can get 6-week abs? It's because Madison Avenue knows that we have the willfulness for about 90 days. And then after 90 days happens, then it's P90X plus 1 pound, P90X plus 2, P90X plus 10. It's because we don't have the will to make it happen. So the final P stands to persist. Persist in your vision. Persist in your purpose. Persist in being your true, authentic self. Resist the temptations. See, the beauty of resistance, and you know this if you work out at all or if even in a light bulb, resistance creates light. It creates energy. So the more you resist, and the more you resist your competition, the more light and energy you're going to get within yourself. And that's the competition. That's the game of life. There's your opponent. There's a person that wants to take you off track. There's a person who doesn't want to see you succeed. That's their job. But you have this person here that wants to see you succeed. And he just wants you to listen. He wants you to listen. So the P stands for persist. So with that, I would ask everybody to give me an S. Give me a T. Give me an O. Give me a P. What do you do when the going gets tough? Stop. What do you want me to do about this speech? Thank you. God bless you all.